The silent arrival of the galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. For centuries, the great empires ruled the stars without challenge. They believed no new power could rise. They believed the age of war was gone. But in the deep dark, something old and dangerous began to stir. The Zirith Empire was the first to notice. Their listening posts caught strange signals from the edge of space. At first, the technicians thought it was noise, just random static from dead systems. But the signal repeated. A sharp rhythm. A pulse like the beat of a heart. The commander of the post frowned. "That is not natural," he said. "Something is out there." The signal grew stronger. It carried weight, like metal scraping across stone. The technicians whispered to each other. Some thought it was a ghost signal, a leftover echo of war. Others feared it was something worse, something alive. For weeks, the Empire debated. The Council of the Zirith laughed at first. They called it nothing but static. "The galaxy is ours," they said. "No one dares to challenge us." But the soldiers on the border were not laughing. Their patrol ships began to vanish. First, 1 and 3, then a whole squadron. No distress calls. No wreckage, only silence. Whispers began to spread. The old name came back, the one the galaxy had buried long ago. Humans. 300 years had passed since humanity was last seen. They had been crushed, defeated, and cast out. The galaxy believed they were gone forever. But now, in the dark, there was movement. A scout fleet of 20 ships was sent to investigate. They jumped into the sector where the signals were strongest. At first, they saw nothing. Just cold stars, drifting rocks, and dead planets. Then one of the pilots gasped. "There," he said. "Do you see it?" Floating in the shadows was a ship. At first, it looked like wreckage. Its armor was blackened and scarred, its edges sharp like broken teeth. But then, lights flickered. Slowly, painfully, as if waking from a long sleep. It was not wreckage. It was a warship. The Zirith captain leaned forward. "Identify it," he ordered. The scanners searched. The codes did not match any empire, any alliance, or any pirate group. The computer struggled, then finally spoke one word. "Human." The bridge fell silent. The ship moved. Engines burned with sudden power. Its shape was brutal steel plates layered on steel, weapons hidden under heavy shields. It was not sleek like Zirith ships, not elegant like the Vora cruisers, not advanced. Like the Zalari fleets, it was something else. Something primal. The Zirith captain felt a chill. "It cannot be," he whispered. They were destroyed. The human ship sent a signal. Simple, short, and cold. 3 words that carried across the stars. "We remember everything." Fear spread through the scout fleet. The captain shouted, "Form lines. Prepare to fire." But before their weapons could charge, the human ship vanished into the dark. Its jump drive activated, leaving only silence behind. Back at the council, the reports caused chaos. Some said it was impossible. Humanity was dead, erased. Others remembered old legends, stories of humans who fought with fire in their hearts, who turned weakness into strength, who never surrendered even when broken. The council split into 2 voices. One voice mocked, "They are only one ship, a ghost from the past, nothing more." The other voice trembled. "One ship destroyed 20 of ours. If one has returned, how many more are waiting?" The Empire prepared more fleets, but fear was already moving faster than orders. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Traders spoke of a black ship drifting through space. Soldiers told stories of comrades vanishing without a trace. And always, in the dark, the same message echoed. "We remember." On a cold, forgotten world, the human ship powered down again. Its name burned across its scarred hull. Defiance. Inside, A lone captain stood at the command chair. His eyes were cold, his face worn by years of exile. Around him, silent crew moved. With purpose. They had waited 3 centuries for this moment. He placed a hand on the steel railing and whispered to his crew, "Let them think it was a ghost. Let them think we are weak. Soon, they will learn the truth. Humanity has returned, with steel and fury." The ship drifted into silence once more, hidden in shadow, waiting. But the galaxy would not have to wait long, because war was coming. This time, humanity was ready. Whispers of steel. The message spread faster than any fleet could travel. Across the galaxy, the words were whispered in low voices, like a curse. We remember. Merchants carried it between trade routes. Soldiers repeated it in barracks at night. Even children in the city streets spoke the words, not knowing what they meant, but feeling the fear they carried. The Zereth Empire tried to silence the talk. They called it nonsense, a trick, a ghost story. They told their people the humans were gone, erased from history. But silence only made the whispers louder. And in the shadows of forgotten space, the ship Defiance moved again. Its black steel. Armor shone dimly under starlight. The scars on its hull were not repaired, but they were left there on purpose, to show pain, to show survival. The ship was not just a weapon, it was a story carved into metal. Inside, Captain Jacob Morrison stood over the navigation table. His crew waited silently. They were not many, but every one of them had been born in exile. Everyone had been raised on stories of Earth's burning, of betrayal, of survival. They were not soldiers of an empire. They were survivors of a graveyard. Jacob spoke quietly. They think we are only one ship. Let them believe it. We will make them fear shadows before they ever see our fleet. The Defiance moved like a predator, striking and vanishing. Alone. Patrol here, a supply line there. No one saw the attacks coming. No one saw where the ship went afterward. To the galaxy, it became a phantom made of steel. The Zereth High Council grew restless. One of their generals slammed his hand on the table. One ship cannot humiliate us like this. Find it, crush it. But another general shook his head. His eyes were heavy with old knowledge. You do not understand. Humans fight differently. They do not fight for territory. They do not fight for gold. They fight for something deeper. Something you cannot erase with weapons. The council mocked him. They laughed at the idea that an exile species could return. Humans are weak. They said. They always were. But even as they spoke, more fleets vanished. On the borders of the empire, soldiers began to fear the dark. They refused to patrol certain routes. Captains ordered their crews to avoid empty sectors. The name of the ship spread with new weight. Defiance. Whispers began to twist into fear. They say it fights like no machine, no strategy we know. They say it moves like fury itself. Steel and fury, together. No, not just that. It fights like it remembers every scar. The Empire sent spies to learn more. They found fragments of human wreckage from centuries ago. Burnt flags, broken weapons, faded symbols of Earth. But the wreckage carried something else, 2 messages. Scratched into the metal before the end. Words like, "We fight still," "can never forgive." The spies returned pale. They told their leaders, the humans are not coming back for peace. They are coming back for memory. One night, in the heart of the Empire, a broadcast broke. Through the secure channels. No one knew how it was sent. No one knew where it came from. But every screen lit up with the same image, the black warship. Silent. Waiting. And then the same cold voice that had haunted the scout fleet spoke again. You thought we were gone. You thought fire could erase us. But steel does not burn. And fury never dies. The broadcast ended. But the fear stayed. Meanwhile, on the Defiance, the crew prepared for the next strike. Jacob Morrison stood with his officers. A young woman, Ensign Kara, asked him, "Captain, when will we reveal the fleet? When will the galaxy know we are not alone?" Jacob looked at her, his eyes steady. "Not yet. Fear is stronger than fire. One ship is enough for now. Let them drown in whispers before they face the storm." The crew nodded. They understood. Every raid, every whisper, every shadow, they were all part of the plan. Humanity was not just fighting a war. Humanity was teaching the galaxy to fear again. And so the Defiance vanished once more into the dark, leaving silence behind. But across the stars, fear grew heavier, because every whisper carried the same warning: steel and fury are coming. First strike, the galaxy held its breath. For weeks, the mysterious human ship had been nothing more than a whisper, a shadow, a ghost in the dark. But whispers cannot be ignored forever. The Zereth Empire wanted proof. They wanted to end the fear once and for all. So they sent a fleet. 50 warships. The admiral in command, Lord Vexer, laughed when he heard the stories of defiance. One human relic against 50 of us? It will be over before the stars blink, he told his crew. He promised to bring back the wreckage as a trophy, to display before the council. But the crew of Defiance had other plans. The human warship floated silent near the edge of a dying star system. Broken moons drifted around it like bones. The Defiance seemed lifeless, just another wreck among the ruins. On the bridge, Captain Jacob Morrison watched the scanners. He did not move, but his eyes were sharp. "They're here," he said quietly. Red lights flared across the board. The Zereth fleet had arrived. 50 ships burned into the system, their engines bright like a storm of fire. Their hulls gleamed with silver and pride, a show of power. Jacob's crew waited, hearts pounding. Ensign Kara whispered, "Sir, they outnumber us 50-1. Jacob did not flinch. "Good," he said. "Then none of them will escape to lie about what they saw." The Zereth admiral opened a channel. His face appeared on every screen. "You are a relic, a shadow from a dead race. Power down your ship, surrender, and I may let your crew live." The humans said nothing. The admiral sneered. "Very well. Fire." 50 ships opened fire at once. Beams of energy and plasma storms streaked across the void, slamming into the Defiance. For a moment, the warship disappeared in the blaze. The admiral smiled. "Pathetic. One volley and it is gone." But then the light faded, and the Defiance was still there. Its armor glowed red, but it did not break. The ship's shields flared like fire, absorbing the storm. And then, slowly, the lights across its hull came alive, rows of red and white, burning like eyes in the dark. Captain Jacob finally gave the order. His voice was calm. "Return fire." The Defiance roared. Missiles streaked out, splitting into dozens of smaller warheads. Railguns spat molten steel faster than light. Plasma cannons tore through the void. The first Zereth cruiser exploded before it could even raise full shields. The second was cut in half by a railgun slug the size of a car. The third tried to retreat, but was ripped apart by missiles that hunted it like wolves. Chaos filled the Zereth fleet. Their perfect formation broke as ships scrambled to escape the storm. "This isn't possible," shouted Admiral Vexer. "It's only one ship." But Defiance was not just one ship. It was steel and fury, built together, forged through pain and exile. It fought like a beast unleashed. Every scar on its armor told a story of survival. Every weapon strike carried 300 years of anger. The Zereth fired back wildly, but their shots missed or bounced off the thick plates of human armor. Defiance cut through them like fire through paper. On the bridge of Defiance, the crew worked with silent focus. Kara shouted, "Target locked. Cruiser down. Railguns reloading." Another crewman called, "Shields at 70% and holding." Jacob stood tall at the center, his voice steady. "Push harder. Leave none alive." The battle raged for less than 20 minutes. When it ended, silence returned to the system, but the silence was broken by wreckage. Of the 50 Zereth ships, more than 30 were destroyed completely. 15 more drifted crippled, burning. Only a handful managed to flee into hyperspace, carrying with them the story of what they had faced. The Defiance stood alone, scarred but unbroken, surrounded by the remains of its enemies, Admiral Vexer's flagship was among the survivors. His pride was gone, his voice shaking as he said the final report. "One ship, one human ship destroyed us. It was not strategy. It was not technology. It was fury given steel." Then he cut the transmission. Back on Defiance, the crew let out slow breaths. They had won, but none cheered. Jacob looked at his crew. "This was only the first strike," he said. "Now the galaxy will know. Now the whispers will become screams." And as the Defiance vanished back into the shadows of space, the legend of humanity grew. The whispers spread faster now. They faced 50 ships and survived. They fought like demons wrapped in steel. Steel and fury. Together, the galaxy had seen its first strike. But it was only the beginning, because humanity was not done. Not by far, fury unleashed the news of the battle spread like fire across dry grass. 50 Zereth warships had faced one human relic and lost. Entire fleets began to whisper in fear. Soldiers who once laughed at human myths now spoke the words with trembling lips. Steel and fury, together. But to Captain Jacob Morrison and the crew of the Defiance, the battle was only the first step. They had not shown the galaxy everything yet. No, they had only shown a taste. Deep inside a hollow asteroid, hidden from scanners, the Defiance docked. The ship was scarred, its armor dented, but still alive. Inside the dark hangars of the asteroid base, more ships waited. Silent shapes, heavy hulls, thick armor. Warships built in secret across centuries of exile. The Defiance was not alone. Jacob stood at the command deck, staring at the row of ships that stretched into the shadows. "For 300 years, he said, his voice steady, "they thought we were gone. They thought Earth was ash, but we endured. And now," he paused, his eyes burning with cold fire, "now we show them what fury looks like." The crew cheered not loud, not wild, but firm. The sound of survivors who knew why they fought. Meanwhile, in the Zereth capital, chaos gripped the High Council. Reports from the survivors of the battle filled the chamber. Our ships were torn apart as if they were made of paper. One commander cried, "They used weapons we have never seen before." Another shouted, "They fought like they had nothing to lose," whispered a third. The council argued, their voices rising into anger and fear. Finally, one voice cut through. It was General Theruk, the oldest among them. His face was lined with scars from wars, long forgotten. "You do not understand," he said. "Humans do not fight wars like we do. They do not fight for honor or for territory. They fight for survival, for memory, for revenge." But the younger counselors mocked him. "It is only one ship. One!" Therek's voice grew dark. "One ship destroyed 50. What will 10 do? What will 100 do?" Silence filled the chamber. Back in the asteroid base, Jacob gave the order. "Launch the fleet." One by one, the hidden warships powered up. Their engines lit the dark hangar with cold fire. Their names were carved into steel: vengeance, justice, iron will, eternal flame. Each one a story of survival, a promise of fury, The galaxy had feared one ghost. Now dozens awakened. Their first target was not a fleet, not a battle station. It was something greater, a supply hub deep in Zereth territory. A fortress world where thousands of ships refueled, repaired, and armed themselves for war. If it fell, the Empire's veins would bleed. The Zereth commanders laughed when they saw the incoming ships. Only 20 of them. We will crush them. But when the battle began, the laughter died. The human ships did not fight like Zereth warships. They moved with brutal precision. Shields overlapped. Weapons fired in perfect rhythm, tearing holes in enemy lines. Missiles struck weak points with deadly accuracy. The Defiance led the charge, its guns blazing like thunder. Entire squadrons of Zereth fighters were wiped away in seconds. Cruisers tried to flank, but railgun slugs cut them down before they could fire. The humans did not stop. They pushed deeper and deeper, tearing through defenses like predators. On the surface of the fortress world, civilians watched in horror as the sky burned. Zereth commanders screamed orders, but it was too late. The human fleet broke through the orbital defenses and unleashed fire. Fuel depots exploded. Weapons caches went up in flames. Dockyards collapsed into rubble. By the time the battle ended, the fortress world was nothing but smoke and ruin. The human fleet left just as quickly as it had come, vanishing back into the shadows of space. The Zereth Empire was stunned. In one strike, humanity had crippled their supply lines. But worse than the destruction was the message that followed. Every screen across the Empire lit up once more. The same cold voice spoke. You thought one ship was all we had. Now you see the truth. We are many, and we are coming. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Traders refused to enter Zereth space. Soldiers whispered of ghosts wrapped in steel. Civilians demanded protection from enemies their leaders claimed were extinct. And everywhere, the same words were repeated. Steel and fury unleashed. On the Defiance, Jacob stood at the viewport, watching the stars. His crew gathered. Behind him, tired but unbroken. They will call us monsters, Jacob said quietly. They will say we are vengeance given form. But we know the truth. We are not here to destroy the galaxy. We are here to remind it that humanity remembers. His voice dropped lower. And we will not stop. The fleet disappeared once. More into the black, leaving behind ruins, fear, and whispers. But in the silence, one truth was clear. This was no longer just survival. This was fury unleashed. Asterisk. Shadows of war. The stars were no longer silent. Every world, every outpost, every ship in the galaxy now carried one name on their lips. Humanity? The stories spread faster than light. One ship had destroyed 50. A hidden fleet had leveled. A fortress world. The empire that had once burned Earth now bled, and the galaxy began to wonder if humanity was truly back. Whose side were they on? In the council chambers of the Velari Union, diplomats argued fiercely. The Velari were a small, but clever species, known for trade and science. For centuries, they had bent knee to the Zereth Empire, paying tribute to survive. Now, the Velari saw a chance. Do you not see? Said Ambassador Rill, his eyes glowing bright under the chamber's light. The humans are not ghosts. They are warriors. If they can wound the Empire, then perhaps they can free us all. But others shook their heads. Foolish hope, one counselor spat. They are death-worlders. They do not build peace. They build war. If we trust them, we will burn. The Velari Council could not decide, but whispers left the chamber. Spies carried them to the Zereth. And already, shadows of betrayal began to form not far away. On the Defiance, Captain Jacob Morrison read intercepted transmissions. The Velari were speaking of humans. So were the Troll, the Kirathi, and even the insectoid Drek. Some want to ally, Kara said quietly. And some want to sell us out, Jacob replied. His jaw tightened. It doesn't matter. They can debate. We will act. But in the silence that followed, Jacob's words carried weight. He knew what others did not. Humanity could not fight the whole galaxy. Not yet. Still, they would not bend. The Zereth Empire was growing desperate. After their defeat at the Fortress World, they sent new fleets, larger fleets. They sent spies. They offered gold and blood to any who would betray the humans' hiding places. Admiral Vexer, humiliated and scarred from his last encounter with Defiance, now commanded the Empire's greatest fleet, 300 warships. Enough, he believed, to crush the human threat forever. But even as he prepared, doubt haunted him. He still remembered the cold voice over the combs. He still saw the wreckage of his ships floating in the dark. And deep inside, he feared what was coming. Meanwhile, humanity struck again, not with fire, not with fury, but with silence, the Defiance. And its fleet moved like shadows, striking trade lanes, cutting supply chains, freeing prisoners, and vanishing before alarms could ring. Entire sectors woke to find Zereth banners, torn down, and human warnings burned into the sky. We have not forgotten. We have not forgiven. The message was clear. Humanity was not just at war with the Zereth. They were pulling the galaxy itself into the fire. And then came the moment that changed everything. A Velari Union, trembling between fear and hope, secretly sent a ship to meet the Defiance. It was a small vessel, unarmed, carrying only diplomats. When they entered the hidden asteroid field where the human fleet waited, they were shocked. Rows of ships, dozens strong, floated in the dark like sleeping beasts. And in the center, the Defiance burned with scarred pride. The Velari delegation stepped aboard. Their leader, Ambassador Rill, faced Jacob Morrison. "You are Rill," Rill whispered. His voice shook with awe. "The galaxy thought you were ashes." Jacob said nothing at first. He simply stared, his eyes hard. "We were ashes, but ashes can still burn." The Velari ambassador bowed his head. "We will help you. We will give you information, maps, supply routes, anything to see the Empire fall." Jacob studied him for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "Then you are not our enemy." But even as the Velari promised alliance, shadows moved elsewhere, for not all of them wanted peace. Some had already sent word to the Zereth, revealing where the Defiance hid. That night, as the human fleet prepared to depart, Kara came to Jacob with a quiet warning. "Sir," she said, holding a datapad, "we have a leak." Someone sold us out. Jacob looked at the stars beyond the viewport. His jaw tightened. "Good," he said softly. "Then let them come. Let them throw everything they have. The more they bring, the more the galaxy will see what fury really means." In the distance, fleets were already moving. 300 ships under Admiral Vexer, hunting through the void. Whispers of betrayal weaving through the stars. And in the shadows, humanity waited steel ready, fury burning. The shadows of war had only just begun. Asterisk the trap. The void was restless. 300 warships of the Zereth Empire drifted in formation, their engines glowing like a burning sea. Admiral Vexer stood on the command bridge of his massive flagship, his scarred hand gripping the railing. "This ends tonight," he growled. "The humans die here." Around him, his officers moved nervously. They remembered the whispers. They remembered the ghost fleet that had already humiliated the Empire twice. But none dared speak against him. To disobey was death. The fleet surged forward, guided by secret coordinates delivered by a Velari informant. A trap for the humans, they believed. They were wrong. Far away, in the dark silence of a dead star system, the Defiance waited. Captain Jacob Morrison stood over a glowing star. Map. Around him, his officers watched silently as he traced lines across the hologram. They think they hunt us, Jacob said quietly. But the hunters do not see the pit. Kara leaned forward. Sir, the Zereth fleet is massive. We can't meet them head on. Jacob's mouth curved in the faintest shadow of a smile. We won't. We will cut their pride into pieces. And then we will show the galaxy what steel and fury together really means. The system chosen was no accident. It was a graveyard of broken moons and shattered rock, torn apart long ago by ancient wars. Asteroid fields thick as clouds filled the space, hiding shapes, hiding dangers. And among those rocks, the humans had been busy. Old satellites, refitted into mines. Dead hulks of ships, armed with explosives. Asteroid tunnels carved into hidden weapon nests. The system itself had been turned into a weapon. When the Zereth fleet entered, they spread wide, scanning for the enemy. There! An officer shouted. The Defiance has been sighted. On the edge of the field, the scarred human ship lit its engines and moved slowly into view. Alone, small, outnumbered 100-1, Zereth Bridge roared with laughter. Pathetic. Admiral Vexer sneered. Bring me that ship's wreckage. I will mount its steel on my wall. The fleet surged forward. And then the first asteroid exploded. The blast ripped through a cluster of Zereth cruisers, tearing them apart in an instant. Before the screams of their crews could even reach cones, the second blast erupted. Then the third. The graveyard came alive. Mines detonated. Hidden guns roared from the rocks. Entire waves of Zereth fighters vanished in fire. The Defiance fired. Just once, and then slipped back into the asteroid field, vanishing like a shadow. On the flagship, Admiral Vexer's face went pale. It's a trap, he whispered. But it was too late. From the dark, the human fleet struck. Warships appeared one by one, their engines flaring for only seconds before vanishing back into cover. Railguns fired, missiles streaked. Entire Zereth. Squadrons were shredded before they could even return fire. The Empire's massive numbers meant nothing in the chaos of the field. Their size became weakness. Their formations collapsed. Admiral, our ships are crashing into the rocks. Admiral, Sector 3 has gone dark. Admiral, the reports turned into screams. In the command deck of the Defiance, Jacob watched the battle unfold with cold eyes. Cut their supply ships first, he ordered. Aye, Captain, Kara replied. Moments later, massive explosions lit the field as the Zereth fuel carriers ignited, turning whole wings of their fleet into fire, now cripple their flagships. The Defiance's main railgun fired, a thunderous shot that pierced through the hull of a Zereth dreadnought. The ship broke apart like glass, its debris scattering across the void. One by one, the Empire's giants fell. Admiral Vexer tried to regain control, pull back, regroup outside the field. He roared, but humanity did not give him the chance. Hidden engines roared to life. Giant asteroids, rigged with thrusters, slammed into the retreating Zereth ships, crushing them under. Tons of rock. It was no longer a battle. It was slaughter. At last, only a fraction of the great Zereth fleet remained. Admiral Vexer's flagship, crippled and burning, limped through the smoke. On his cracked view screen, the Defiance appeared once more, its hull scarred, its guns glowing. Jacob's voice came through the comms, cold, steady. You thought this was our grave, but it is yours. Tell your Empire, every fleet you send will meet the same fate. The Defiance fired. Vexer's ship split apart, its fire lighting the void. When it was over, silence returned. The asteroid field was filled with drifting wreckage, broken ships, and burning steel. The greatest fleet of the Zirath Empire had been destroyed. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans had not just survived. They had outwitted, outgunned, and annihilated their hunters. The whispers grew louder. Steel and fury, together and unstoppable. Judgment Day, the galaxy held its breath. The Zirath Empire had lost fleets, lost worlds, lost pride, but still it stood. Its capital, the fortress world Draction Prime, remained untouched, surrounded by defenses built over centuries. Now, humanity, aimed straight at its heart. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Jacob Morrison watched the stars shift as the fleet prepared to jump. "This is it," Kara said quietly, her hands tight on the console. "If we fail here, everything ends." Jacob nodded slowly. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "If we succeed," he said, "the galaxy will never fear the Zirath again." The crew stood ready. Not one of them trembled. They had seen, too, much fire already. They had survived exile, betrayal, and war. Now they carried something greater than survival. They carried vengeance. And justice. When the fleet emerged from jump, Draction Prime filled the screens. A vast world wrapped in steel and shields. Orbital rings stretched like cages around the planet. Warships by the hundreds patrolled, their guns glowing. The heart of the Empire pulsed with arrogance and cruelty, and waiting at its core was the last, greatest fleet the Zirath could gather. "Humans," came the broadcast, the voice of the Emperor himself. It echoed through every channel, reaching every corner of the system. "You dare defy us? You are dust. You are vermin that should never have crawled back from the ashes. Today, your kind ends forever." Jacob leaned forward. His reply was cold. "Steel, we are not dust, we are fire. And today, Emperor, it is your empire that ends." The channel cut. The battle began. The sky burned. Human warships clashed with Zirath dreadnoughts in the void above Draction Prime. Missiles streaked like falling stars. Railguns tore holes through shields. The Defiance led from the front, its scarred hull glowing as it smashed through enemy lines again and again. But for every Zirath ship destroyed, another took its place. The Empire's heart would not fall easily. "Kara, status." Jacob barked. "Shields at 60%. Enemy forces overwhelming." The crew's voices strained. The fight was brutal, endless, and merciless. Yet they pressed forward. Then the ground itself trembled, for humanity had brought a second weapon. Hidden within their fleet were old war machines, titans rebuilt from Earth's lost arsenals. They were not ships. They were judgment engines, satellites designed to strike at planets themselves. And now, humanity unleashed them. The engines fired. Bolts of white light slammed into Draction Prime's defenses, ripping holes through shields that had never been broken. Towers of steel crumbled. Orbital cannons shattered. For the first time in centuries, the capital of the Zirath Empire felt fear. In the throne chamber, the Emperor watched his empire burn. His eyes were wild. His voice shook with rage. "They cannot win. They are only one world, only one people." But in the void above, the truth was clear. Humanity was no longer one world. Humanity had become something greater, a storm that no empire could cage. The Defiance pushed deeper into the fight, its guns glowing red-hot. At last, the path to the Emperor's flagship opened. Jacob stood tall, his voice steady as stone. "Lock all weapons. End this." The Defiance's main railgun roared. A single shot ripped across the void, piercing the flagship of the Zirath Emperor. The ship exploded, a blinding sun of fire. And with it, the Empire's will collapsed. The battle ended in silence. Draction Prime's defenses fell. The last Zirath Ships scattered, leaderless, broken. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than light. The empire that had once enslaved worlds was no more. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew watched the burning capital. Kara's voice was quiet. "It's over." Jacob stared at the flames. His eyes were tired, but unbroken. "No," he said softly. "It's only beginning." He turned to the crew. "A galaxy watched us fight. They will remember what we did. Now we must decide. Are we only fury? Or can we be something greater?" Number one spoke, but in their silence was understanding. Steel and fury had saved them. But now, humanity carried more than vengeance. They carried the future. And so, the Defiance stood over the ruins of the Empire, not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as a warning, a promise whispered to the stars. Humanity remembers. Humanity endures. Humanity will never kneel again.